Om Namo Narayanaya. We are continuing the chapter on biting and the means to be employed with regard to women of different countries. In the affairs of love, a man should do such things as are agreeable to the women of different countries. The women of the central countries, such as between the Ganges and the Jumna, are noble in their character, not accustomed to disgraceful practices, and dislike pressing the nails and biting. The women of the Balhika country are gained over by striking. The women of Avantika are fond of foul pleasures and have not good manners. The women of the Maharashtra are fond of practicing the 64 arts. They utter low and harsh words and like to be spoken to in the same way, and have an impetuous desire of enjoyment. The women of Pataliputra, or the modern Patna, are of the same nature as to the women of the Maharashtra, but show their likings only in secret. The women of the Dravida country, though they are rubbed and pressed about at the time of sexual enjoyment, have a slow fall of semen, that is, they are very slow in the act of coition. The women of Vanavasi are moderately passionate. They go through every kind of enjoyment, cover their bodies, and abuse those who utter low, mean, and harsh words. The women of Avanti hate kissing, marking with the nails, and biting, but they have a fondness for various kinds of sexual union. The women of Malwa like embracing and kissing, but not wounding, and they are gained over by striking. The women of Abhira and those of the country about the Indus and the 5 rivers, the Punjab, are gained over by the Aparishtaka, or mouth congress. The women of Aparitika are full of passion and make slowly the sound sit. The women of the Lat country have an even more impetuous desire and also make the sound sit. The women of the Stri Rajya and of Kosholya, or Ujjayi, are full of impetuous desire. Their semen fall in large quantities, and they are fond of taking medicine to make it do so. The women of the Andhra country have tender bodies. They are fond of enjoyment and have a liking for voluptuous pleasures. The women of Ganda have tender bodies and speak sweetly. Now, Suvar Namba is of the opinion that that which is agreeable to the nature of a particular person is of more consequence than that which is agreeable to a whole nation, and that therefore the peculiarities of the country should not be observed in such cases. The various pleasures, the dress, and the sports of one country are in time borrowed by another, and in such case these things must be considered as belonging originally to that country. Among other things mentioned above, embracing, kissing, etc., those which increase passion should be done first, and those which are only for amusement and variety should be done afterwards. There are also some verses on the subject, as follows. When a man bites a woman forcibly, she should angrily do the same to him with double force. Thus a point should be returned with a line of points, and a line of points with a broken cloud, and if she be excessively chafed, she should at once begin a love quarrel with him. At such times she should take hold of her lover by the hair and bend his head down and kiss his lower lip, and then, being intoxicated with love, she should shut her eyes and bite him in various places. Even by day, and in a place of public resort, when her lover shows her any mark that she may have inflicted on his body, she should smile at the sight of it, and turning her face as if she were going to chide him, she should show him with an angry look the marks of her own body that have been made by him. Thus, if men and women act according to each other's liking, their love for each other will not be lessened even in 100 years. I read a lot of place names that I've never seen before. I do not know if any of these places exist other than the Punjab. I will allow you to look them up. I do not know if any of these cultures still exist. And if they do, I'm only reading a book. I feel bad saying that all the women of the Punjab just like mouth congress, or all the women of the Ganda have tender bodies. It feels really weird for me to say that, because I do, agreeing with Suvar Nanamba, believe that a person is more than just a nation, and that what is agreeable to one person may not be agreeable to all of them, and we're living, this is a chapter of stereotypes, and I do not mean to offend anybody. I'm just reading this book, trying to discover it. What is also tough to me is I haven't read forward, but I guarantee there is no chapter of the men of each of these countries. The Kama Sutra is clearly written for men, and women, to me, feel like a toy, a tool. And it's all about men dominating women. It's very tough to read this at times.